Hey everyone, welcome back to Berry Life. Today we're sharing with you our ultimate vegan and vegetarian Thanksgiving recipes in a compilation to make your holiday feast unforgettable. We've got everything from a festive Cranberry Cinnamon Whiskey Sour to the creamiest vegan mac and cheese, and even a show-stopping field roast celebration roast. Whether you're craving a classic stuffing or mouthwatering sweet potato casserole, we'll also show you how to make our crispy, caramelized French onion green bean casserole. We've got your holiday table covered. Get ready for hearty, flavor-packed dishes that everyone will love. So, stick around for all the delicious details, recipe tips, and our best tricks to make your plant-based Thanksgiving truly unforgettable. Let's get cooking. With the weather getting colder and the holidays upon us, we thought it would be the perfect time to share this Cranberry Cinnamon Whiskey Sour recipe to warm your spirits. For this cocktail, we'll need to make a quick cranberry simple syrup. To a pan over medium heat, add 1 cup of water, 1 cup of fresh or frozen cranberries, 1 cup of sugar, 1 stick of cinnamon, and a slice of orange zest. Bring this mixture to a boil and allow the cranberries to pop and release their juices and color into the syrup. Once at a boil, simmer for 10 minutes until the cranberries are broken down and the syrup looks something like this. Then take it off the heat and strain the syrup, leaving behind all the solids. You can make this ahead of time and leave it in your refrigerator, and then allow the syrup to cool. That's it. Cranberry Cinnamon Simple Syrup. Before mixing the drink, we always prepare the glasses first. We'll add some ice. We're using some fun skull-shaped ice from Halloween that just passed. And drop in a few cranberries. This recipe is for 2 servings, so be sure to adjust it as needed. We'll start by adding 4 ounces of whiskey to a shaker. We're using a rye whiskey. You can use your favorite whiskey or bourbon. The difference between rye and bourbon is for rye whiskey, the mash bill has to have at least 51% rye, as opposed to 51% corn for bourbon. Next, we'll add 1 ounce of fresh orange juice, then 1 ounce of fresh lime juice, 2 ounces of fresh lemon juice, and lastly, 3 ounces of our simple syrup. Now we'll add some ice to the shaker and shake vigorously for about 30 seconds. This cools the drink down, combines everything thoroughly, and incorporates air. And now we'll serve. This is perfect for Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, Christmas, or any other holiday party. Other than cranberry cinnamon, we also love passion fruit, honey lemon, and lychee sours. And garnish with a cinnamon stick, some orange zest, and a sprig of mint. There you have it, Cranberry Cinnamon Whiskey Sour. Good stuffing starts with good bread. Because the bread is going to come into contact with liquid, we need a hearty bread, something that won't fall apart at the mere mention of moisture. For this, we prefer a French country bread. You can also use a hearty Italian. Typically, stuffing is made with smaller pieces of bread, but we like our stuffing with some texture and substance, so we'll go with the larger pieces. Now that we've cut these thick slices, we'll cut those down to size into large cubes. The fun part about cooking is experimenting and making something the way you like it, and not somebody else. So why not take the road less traveled and go for the gusto? Do you know why the bread started a business? Because it wanted to make a little dough on the side. Once all the pieces are cut, we'll load them on a baking sheet and spread them out evenly. We're not going to use oil. We're only going to dry these out so they can absorb the flavors from the other ingredients. Anytime we have leftover bread, we follow the same process to create croutons, or throw them in the food processor, pulse a few times to make homemade breadcrumbs. Now we'll place the sheet in the oven on the warm setting. If your oven doesn't have a warm setting, bake at the lowest temperature possible. Ours is around 175 degrees Fahrenheit. If possible, every once in a while, open the door to allow the steam to escape. It will dry out the pieces that much quicker. While the bread is drying out, let's focus on the other ingredients. Onions and celery are a classic combination for stuffing, and we actually like the simplicity here, so we'll use them. However, it's easy to improvise on this recipe with mushrooms, carrots, or even with some leeks. We don't like a boring stuffing. It should have some texture, some crunch, some bite. So we're gonna cut the onions and celery a little large. Why did the broccoli break up with the celery? There was too much stocking involved. I just love that crisp snap of the fresh celery. Fun fact, the original Thanksgiving was in 1621. The Thanksgiving feast actually lasted 3 days. Those guys were real party animals. I guess we can't hang like we used to 400 years ago. Someone asked me once, why is it called a bench scraper? I said because it couldn't press the weights. For the onion, we're using a sweet onion, or you may know them as Vidalia. This offers a nice hint of sweetness to counteract all the savory and earthy ingredients in the recipe. It really rounds out the flavor profile. A sweet onion isn't actually sweet. It just has less pungency due to a low sulfur level in the soil where they are grown. The reason they are sometimes labeled as Vidalia onions is because those onions specifically come from Vidalia County in Georgia. The soil in this county is low in sulfur and famous for their sweet onions. It's similar to how Champagne comes from Champagne region in France. We love using these when making French onion soup. Onions, garlic, shallots, green onions, leeks, and chives, these culinary rock stars, are part of the same allium family, which is a type of lily. Aside from a sharp knife, to cleanly and efficiently cut vegetables, a good bench scraper is really handy to have to transfer those vegetables. For the herbs, we have some fresh thyme that we've dried at home. I always have difficulty getting the thyme leaves to come off the stems. We have about 1 to 2 tablespoons here. We also have some fresh sage. Of all the herbs, perhaps sage is the most associated with Thanksgiving in America. It has kind of a funky smell. It's earthy, it's musty, very aromatic. We'll break off the leaves and give them a rough chop. This is about 2 to 3 tablespoons. We prefer the fresh sage, but if fresh isn't available, feel free to use the dry sage. If you're using the dried sage, you only need about 1 tablespoon. With that, our mise en place is ready. Along with the vegetables and herbs, we have 2 cups of vegetable stock, vegan butter, salt and pepper to taste. We're now ready to assemble the stuffing. Let's go check on our croutons in the oven. These are perfect to absorb all the flavors. We'll place all the croutons in a large mixing bowl and preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. While the oven is heating up, in a pan over medium heat, we'll melt some vegan butter. Once melted, we'll add half of the sage and thyme. We want to infuse the butter with the herbs. We'll use the stem of the sage as well. There's flavor in there. Don't let it go to waste. How do the herbs settle a dispute? They call in sage for some wise seasoning. You know how your kitchen smells amazing when you melt butter? But this is at least 10 times better. Then we'll add the onions and celery. We want to coat them evenly in that aromatic butter, along with a little bit of salt and ground black pepper. We want to preserve the crunch of the onions and celery, so we won't cook them for long, maybe a minute or 2, just enough to eliminate the rawness. This looks good. Now we can take it off the heat and toss the mixture onto the croutons. This mixture smells amazing. Next we add the remainder of our sage and thyme. How did the detective track down the croutons? He followed the trail of breadcrumbs, along with 1 cup of vegetable stock, and combined everything thoroughly. We want to allow the bread pieces to absorb the first cup of vegetable stock before we add the second. If we add all the stock at the same time, the moisture may be absorbed unevenly, with some pieces absorbing more and some less. Now we'll add the second cup and allow the bread to absorb the remainder of the liquid. At this point, give the bread a taste, and season with salt and pepper as desired. Fun fact, salt comes from the Latin word salarium, which was an allowance to buy salt. Then into a large casserole dish, the stuffing mixture goes. This may look a little bit dry, but trust me, all of that liquid and hence the flavor is locked in. Now we'll transfer it into our preheated oven to bake for about 25 to 30 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Through the magic of editing, it's 25 to 30 minutes later. Now we'll take it out of the oven. There, the stuffing is ready. You're gonna love this. The bread is beautifully textured with soft centers and crispy exteriors. Mashed potatoes are not complicated. Outside of boiling a potato and mashing it to smithereens, the rest is up for grabs. With that said, there are some tips and tricks to keep in mind when making mashed potatoes. Starting with what type of potato to use. We want to go with a potato high in starch. For that, russet or Yukon Gold are commonly available options. Since it's easier to peel the skin before boiling, we've peeled 2 to 3 pounds of these golden potatoes. We'll dice them into even pieces so they boil quickly and evenly. Overboiling potatoes causes the cells in the potato to burst, releasing starch, resulting in gummy potatoes. What do you call a bear without teeth? A gummy bear. We'll also crush 3 to 4 garlic cloves. Go ahead, vent your frustration for a little bit of garlic therapy. We don't want to mince the garlic and leave all of that garlic flavor on the cutting board. Along with the garlic, we'll dice a handful of chives. They add a nice textural element to the creaminess of the potatoes. The chive plant produces an attractive purple flower. Not only are they beautiful, but they're also edible with a mild onion flavor. They're often used as a garnish. With the preparation done, we can boil the potatoes. We'll add the potatoes and the garlic to a large pot and cover them with water. Here's another mistake to avoid. Don't add the potatoes to boiling water. Adding them to boiling water results in the outside of the potatoes to cook faster than the inside. With the potatoes, our goal is simple. Boil the inside and the outside evenly so they cook at the same time. So start with room temperature water. Now we'll turn on the heat and bring everything to a boil. Once the potatoes are boiling, we'll boil for about 5 minutes or until the potatoes are fork tender. These are perfect. Now we'll turn off the heat and drain it. We're using a slotted spoon, but you can use a colander as well. Once all the potato pieces are transferred, we'll go ahead and dump the water. Then we'll add the potatoes back into the pot and turn on the heat to remove any moisture, letting them dry out. Once the water evaporates, we'll put the potatoes aside and in a small pan, melt some vegan butter. We like this brand called Earth Balance. To that butter, we'll add fresh rosemary. You can chop the rosemary as well. This will infuse the butter with that beautiful rosemary aroma. Next, we'll add 1/3 cup of vegan heavy cream and gently stir that together. We want to avoid adding any cold liquids to our boiled potatoes. We want to stir vigorously to incorporate the heavy whipped cream with butter. This looks good. Now we'll take it off the heat and pour it over our boiled potatoes. We'll give it a light stir and then go medieval on it with a potato masher. You can also use a potato ricer if you have one. You can mash as much or as little as you want. Just make sure that all the liquid is absorbed. We like our mashed potatoes to be creamy, but we leave tiny pieces of potatoes intact, paying homage to the boiled potato. We haven't done a taste test yet, so we'll give it a taste and season with salt and black pepper. What's the potato's best dance move? The mashed potato, of course. This consistency looks great. It's perfect for our next mashed potato masterpiece sculpting competition. Now we'll add about half the chives and leave the rest for garnish. That's it, the mashed potatoes are done. Before serving, be sure to add a pat of butter. Now we'll prepare a vibrant and beautifully balanced cranberry sauce. Starting with a saucepan on medium-low heat, we'll add our frozen cranberries, about 12 ounces or so. We're using frozen cranberries, but you can use fresh ones. The process is exactly the same, along with a stick of cinnamon and some beautiful orange zest. Cranberries are grown in bogs, and they float in water, which makes harvesting an interesting process. We'll also add some water to help speed things along. It will help prevent burning and meld the flavors together. Here we're calling it a cranberry sauce, but otherwise it would be called a compote. The cranberries are beginning to release that beautiful color. Once the cranberries begin to pop, we'll use the back of the spoon to crush them down. We like the sauce to be rustic, with bits and pieces of cranberry, as opposed to a uniform consistency like Jell-O. With the mixture at a boil, we'll add the juice of half an orange. Cranberries are rather tart, so you have to balance that tartness with sweetness. Once the cranberries are broken down, we'll add 2/3 cups of granulated sugar, or caster sugar for our viewers across the Atlantic, and 1/3 cup of brown sugar. Feel free to replace the sugar with your sweetener of choice. We'll lower the heat to a simmer and allow the sugar to melt, and find any stray berries that haven't been crushed yet. Cranberries were actually used by the indigenous Americans for food and medicine long before the European settlers arrived. Once the sugar is mixed and the berries crushed, there you have it. The sauce is done. This is the consistency we're looking for. We'll turn off the heat and transfer it to a bowl. Cranberries, like other berries, contain pectin, a thickening agent. As the sauce cools down in the refrigerator, it will become a semi-solid, kind of like Jell-O. Today we are making a classic comfort food, but with a vegan twist. Mac and cheese. Just saying mac and cheese out loud brings back memories of good times. For this recipe, we're going to need a pound of pasta. We are using cavatappi for this video, but feel free to use any small tubular pasta such as macaroni or even penne. Cavatappi means corkscrew in Italian. This shape really helps hold the sauce inside, as do the ridges on the outside. We'll also need paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, vegan butter, jalapenos, all-purpose flour, nutritional yeast, Dijon mustard, breadcrumbs, pesto. This is an optional ingredient, but it just takes this dish to another level. Homemade vegetable stock, coconut milk, and salt and pepper to taste. We'll start by bringing a pot to boil. Go ahead and add a liberal amount of salt to the water, should be like seawater, and cook the pasta to package instructions. We want the pasta to be al dente, which means a little firm when you bite into it. This should take about 7 or 8 minutes. While the pasta is boiling, let's toast some breadcrumbs. In a skillet over low heat, add some butter and let it melt. Once the butter has melted, add the breadcrumbs. We want the breadcrumbs to be GBD, golden brown and delicious. Stir the breadcrumbs continuously to prevent burning. Notice the slight browning on the bottom. The breadcrumbs are starting to toast. The breadcrumbs are done. We can go ahead and take them off the pan and transfer them to a plate to let them cool. Before we make the mac and cheese, we'll preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we can start the sauce. In a large pan over medium heat, add 6 tablespoons of butter. Stir and let the butter melt completely. Once the butter has melted, add 6 tablespoons of flour. Mix the butter and the flour together into a paste. This paste is called a roux. This will help thicken the sauce. We don't need to cook the roux for long, we just need it to be lightly browned and eliminate the taste of the flour. You may notice a nutty fragrance. That's when you know the roux is done. Now we'll add the vegetable stock and thoroughly mix this together with a whisk to eliminate any lumps. This looks good. Now we'll add the coconut milk. And we'll keep whisking to make sure everything is completely incorporated. And bring the sauce to a boil. When the sauce boils, we'll take it off the heat and mix in the other ingredients. The sauce is boiling, let's take it off the heat. Now I'll add the Dijon mustard and whisk that in. Then we'll add the nutritional yeast and continue whisking. The yeast has a nutty and savory flavor, resembling cheese, so it's a great alternative. The yeast also helps thicken the sauce even more. Once the nutritional yeast is fully combined, we'll add the garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. And mix them in. Now we'll add the jalapenos. If you want the sauce to be spicier, add the jalapenos in the roux. Now we'll add salt and pepper to taste. Using the back of the spoon test, we're going to check for consistency. Perfect. We'll also check for seasoning. This needs just a little more salt. That's it. The cheese sauce is done. Now we can add the cooked pasta and combine until all of the pasta is coated with the cheese sauce. Now we are ready to bake. Transfer the mac and cheese to a baking dish. This recipe makes enough to fill a 13 by 9 pan. For this video, we're using a small and medium baking dish. Add any remaining sauce to the baking dish. We don't want to waste any of that cheesy goodness. Before baking in the oven, we're going to add a layer of breadcrumbs on top. Add as much or as little as you prefer. We are a heavy crust household. We're also going to cover the baking dish with foil. These are ready to go into the oven. Once the oven reaches 400 degrees, the mac and cheese can go in. We're going to bake it for 15 minutes. It's been about 15 minutes. We're going to remove the foil. After removing the foil, push them back in and bake for another 5 minutes, and allow the breadcrumbs to form a crispy crust. Five minutes later, the mac and cheese is done. Look at that golden crust. Let the mac and cheese rest for about 15 to 20 minutes before serving. Before serving, we're going to add a pesto drizzle on top for an additional flavor element that pairs nicely with the richness of the cheese sauce. There you have it, vegan mac and cheese. I wouldn't compare this to a regular mac and cheese because it's not, but it is a delicious dish on its own. It looks so good. Let's get cheesy. What do you call a casserole that sings? A tuna casserole. Today we're making green bean casserole. This is a perfect recipe for the holidays, especially for family gatherings. So let's get started. First, we'll start by preparing the green beans. We usually get a large bag from Costco, and this 2-pound bag is perfect for this recipe. We'll snip off the ends and cut them in halves. You can do this one at a time or group them in a bunch like this. Fun facts: green beans are also known as string beans or snap beans. They're typically harvested when the pods are still immature. They're believed to have originated in Peru. When buying green beans, we usually get the large bag and typically prep and freeze them to be used in different dishes. After the green beans, we'll slice the onions. Sweet onions are the best to make French onion soup. The extra sugar helps with caramelization. What do you call an onion that's always telling jokes? A punion. Usually for French onions, we prefer slicing them into rounds. But today we'll use the radial cut, which is pole to pole. It helps the onions stay more intact during cooking. Sweet onions have a shorter shelf life, so you have to store them in a cool, dry place with good air circulation. Once all the vegetables are cut, we'll bring a pot of water to boil and add a teaspoon of salt. Then throw in the green beans and boil them for about 2 to 3 minutes. The blanching process helps to brighten and soften the green beans. It also helps to slow down vitamin loss during cooking. Wow, look at that color. We want to preserve that color throughout the cooking process. After the green beans, we'll caramelize the onions. To a large pot over medium-low heat, we'll add a couple of tablespoons of butter and toss in our mountain of onions. Don't worry if this looks like a lot of onions. They'll cook down quite a bit. This process takes about 15 minutes. It's low and slow. The burnt bits sticking to the bottom are called fond and can be used to make au jus. At the end, the caramelized onion should look something like this. With the vegetables cooked, now we'll make the white sauce. To make this, we'll start with a roux. That's equal parts butter and flour. Keep the temperature to a medium-low to prevent burning. We'll cook the roux to a light color, and then slowly add in cold milk. We add the milk slowly to prevent clumps. This white sauce is called a bechamel in French, which is one of the 5 mother sauces of French cuisine. Once we've incorporated about a third of the milk, we'll add the remaining. With the foundation of the sauce formed, now we'll tackle the taste. We'll add some ground black pepper. We like to use a coarse grind. And some salt for seasoning. And for flavoring, we'll add some cayenne pepper for a little bit of heat. And some freshly ground nutmeg because it's nutty, earthy, and slightly sweet to round out the flavor. Why did the nutmeg go to therapy? Because it had a grating day. And for the herb, we're using thyme that we've dried at home. We'll bring everything to a gentle boil and allow the sauce to thicken to a nappe consistency. which means the sauce will have the consistency to stick to the back of a spoon. With the sauce ready, we'll take it off the heat and allow it to cool. And lastly, we'll prepare some breadcrumbs for the top. In a small bowl, we'll add 2/3 cups of panko breadcrumbs, and then drizzle in 2 tablespoons of melted butter. We'll give it a gentle mix and allow the breadcrumbs to absorb the butter. This will help them from burning in the oven and allowing them to get the GBD. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like button and let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more great content. With all the ingredients prepared, now we can assemble the casserole. We'll start with a layer of French onions. We'll add half the onions and spread them out evenly. We didn't grease the pan, we just forgot to do it. But in the end, it didn't make a difference. If you think the food is going to stick to your pan, feel free to grease it. You're the Peter to your pan. Then add half of our green beans, and again spread them out evenly. Now we'll ladle on half of our sauce. And next, some shredded Gruyere cheese. I'm no scientist, but there's definitely a chemical reaction that makes you happy when shredding cheese and piling it on into a dish like this. Then we'll repeat the cycle. We'll add the second half of our green beans. The green beans are so vibrant, not mushy at all. The rest of the white sauce? It's like a vegetable lasagna without the pasta. Now the rest of our French onions. Then more of that Gruyere cheese. And don't be stingy. You can save that resolution for January 1st. Then we like to season with more salt and black pepper. You don't want boring vegetables. Boring, translation, unseasoned. Then on the top, we'll add our panko breadcrumbs. The butter will help them turn golden brown and crispy, and prevent them from burning. And what breadcrumb crust would be complete without some grated Parmesan? With the casserole prepared, it's ready to go into the oven. We'll preheat the oven to 375. Once the oven is at temperature, we'll place the casserole in the oven and bake for about 25 minutes. Then 25 minutes later, it's ready and smells amazing. The crust is nice and crispy. We'll go for the corner. Love the crunch of that crust. Ideally, you want to allow the casserole to cool a little. This helps to bind the ingredients together and it's not soupy. This is the consistency we're looking for. Love the way the crust sticks to the green beans. Oh man, I cannot wait to dig in. The green beans are still green and have a nice crisp bite to them. Not mushy at all. There you have it, French onion green bean casserole. On today's episode, we're making a delicious side dish for the holidays, a vegan sweet potato casserole. So let's dive right in. We'll start by peeling the potatoes. Sweet potatoes are a type of tubers, or roots. These are different than yams. A lot of time people get them confused. Yams usually have a rough scaly brown skin and are often white or purple on the inside, whereas sweet potatoes have a smoother thin skin with flesh that can be orange, purple, or white. Unlike potatoes, these are a bit harder to cut. We usually stand them up like this and then slice them down. Despite their name, sweet potatoes aren't actually potatoes. Potatoes are actually part of the nightshade plant family, which include eggplants, tomatoes, and even tomatillos, whereas sweet potatoes are part of the morning glory plant family. Then cut them lengthwise again. Now we'll cut them into even pieces. It's important to make the pieces roughly the same size so when boiling, they cook evenly. A fun fact about sweet potatoes: they're really high in fiber, and a medium sweet potato alone can provide over 100% of your daily vitamin A needs. Now we'll load all these pieces into a large pot and fill it with enough water to cover them. Then we'll close the lid and bring it to a boil. Once it's boiling, we'll allow the potatoes to boil for about 5 to 10 minutes until they're fork tender. Then we remove the pieces out of the water and drain the water. Next, we'll throw the pieces back into the pot, turn on the heat, and allow the water to evaporate so the potatoes are dry. Next to the potatoes, we'll add some vegan butter, along with light brown sugar, a vegan heavy cream. We like this brand Califia Farms. They use coconut milk. Some ground cinnamon, and a little salt for seasoning. A little bit of salt is needed to bring out the sweetness. Then we smash the potatoes to smithereens. Once mashed, we mix it thoroughly. And give it a taste test. Looks like it needs a little bit more of everything. Some salt, sugar, and cinnamon. A recipe is a good starting point, but sometimes you have to adjust to your liking. Setting the potatoes aside, we'll prepare the topping. For the topping, we'll go with a pecan streusel and vegan marshmallows. For the streusel, we'll start by roughly chopping some pecans. Pecans have been cultivated by the indigenous Americans for a very long time. The word comes from the Algonquian word pecan, referring to the nuts needing a stone to crack open. Then in a mixing bowl, we'll combine all-purpose flour, light brown sugar, a pinch of salt, and some cinnamon. We'll gently mix all the dry ingredients so they're evenly combined before we add the butter. Streusel originated in Germany and is derived from the German word streuen. It means something scattered or sprinkled. Now we'll add some cold butter and fold it in. We're using 1 stick of butter, which is 8 tablespoons. We've cut the butter into smaller pieces so they're easier to work with. We're using a fork. You can use a dough cutter as well for this. Once the butter is incorporated, then we'll add the pecans and mix them evenly. With this, now we can assemble the casserole. Before we do that, we'll preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 190 Celsius. Now we can assemble the casserole, starting with the sweet potatoes. We'll load them into a 9x13 baking pan and spread them out evenly. Now we can add the marshmallows. We like this brand called Dandies. They make specialty flavors like peppermint and candy corn as well, usually available during the holidays. Now we'll spread the pecan streusel evenly. What would a marshmallow be called if it was a Pokemon? Jigglypuff. And then some more marshmallows. Alright, looks like it's ready. Off to the oven. With the oven at 375, we'll bake the casserole for about 25 minutes. Then 25 minutes later, the casserole should look something like this. The sweet potato casserole is done. Let's dig in. Be sure to check out our channel and subscribe for more great recipe ideas like this one. You can also visit us at berryberrylife.com. We upload new recipes every week. Look how fluffy this casserole is. The marshmallows are so pillowy soft. There you have it. Sweet Potato Casserole. A taste of Americana in the comfort of your own kitchen. In order to make the celebration roast, we'll preheat the oven to 350. And while the oven is heating up, we'll prep the vegetables, starting with the carrots. We're going to cut these carrots long, or lengthwise, as opposed to Samwise, who is short because he's a hobbit. Fun fact, carrots are about 88% water, perfect for a hydrating snack. And they get this orange color from a compound called beta-carotene, which helps with the production of vitamin A. Next, we'll remove the stems of these baby bella mushrooms. We've already wiped them with a damp towel to remove any excess dirt, and then we'll chop them into thin slices. Check out the link above where we show you how to clean mushrooms. The baby bella mushrooms are actually the smaller version of the portobello. And lastly, the onion. We're using the red onion for a nice burst of color. To match the carrots and the mushrooms, we're going to use a radial cut, which is pole to pole. This will give us beautiful thin slices. We can do this by laying the onion down and slicing at a diagonal. There are a lot of ways to cut an onion, and the cut impacts the final product. Check out the link above where we show you different ways to cut an onion. Or stand it up and slice down, rotating slightly until finished. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more great content. With that, our vegetables are prepped. Then in a large dry pan over medium heat, we'll add our mushrooms and allow them to cook. We're not going to use any oil or butter yet. Crazy, right? Crazy genius. This actually allows the mushrooms to give off water, reduce, and develop a more intense mushroom flavor. Check it out. See that water on the surface? That's a great sign. And these look to be done. Now we'll push these mushrooms to the side where it's cooler. Then we'll add a little bit of oil and throw in some fresh rosemary. Then we'll add our carrots. The pan is pretty hot, and that's going to allow us to char and caramelize these carrots. Now we'll throw in a pat of butter, because why not? Along with the sweetness from the caramelization, this will give the carrots a nice richness. This is perfect. That's the kind of charring we're looking for. Now we'll push the carrots to the side and make room for the onions. We won't add any more oil or butter, and allow the onions to char on their own. We don't need to cook the vegetables completely since they're going to go in the oven. We'll mix everything evenly and take it off the heat. Our holiday feast isn't complete without a roast. For our roast, we're going with a plant-based celebration roast from Field Roast. This company makes a roast that's available in a smaller size throughout the year, but it seems only during the holidays they make this larger size. And it actually comes with a porcini gravy packet that we love and is super easy to make. We'll set this aside for now and prepare the roast. Per the package instructions, you don't actually need to defrost it. This roast comes vacuum sealed, and it has this grid pattern on it, kind of giving it a string tied effect. We'll remove the packaging and place the roast in a baking dish. This is a 9x9 dish. Then, we'll brush it with oil on all sides. This is one of our favorite roasts. We usually pick up 2 or 3 around the holiday season. Next, we'll add our cooked vegetables, along with a twig of rosemary we cooked with the vegetables, and another fresh one for additional aromatics. And then we'll add 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. The water will turn to steam while baking, which will help cook the roast and prevent it from drying out. Per the instructions, we'll cover the pan with foil and bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes. Then we'll remove the foil and bake it for another 15 minutes to help get a little color on the outside. It's been 45 minutes, so we'll go ahead and take off the foil and place it back in the oven for the final 15 minutes. It's been 15 minutes, so let's take a look. Wow, this looks amazing. That's it. The celebration roast is ready. With the roast prepared, we'll quickly make our porcini mushroom gravy. It couldn't be simpler. In a pan over medium-low heat, add 2 cups of water, and to it, add the porcini gravy powder. Now we'll gently stir and heat up the gravy to remove any lumps. As the mixture heats up, it'll thicken. A whisk really comes in handy here. That's it, the porcini mushroom gravy is ready. If your roast doesn't come with a gravy, check out the link above for our mushroom gravy recipe. Happy holidays, everyone. It is simple to say thank you, but much more meaningful to show your gratitude. Here's to looking back at the year past, taking a moment to reflect and appreciate those around us. If you're traveling for the holidays, safe travels. And if you're hosting, may your guests do all the dishes. Here's to a vegan roast and stuffing, cranberries and gravy, pumpkin pie and maybe a little whipped cream. Whatever delights you. Happy shopping or happy napping. Again, whatever delights you. Thank you for an amazing year of love and support. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Also, be sure to subscribe for more great content. And remember to click that bell icon to turn on notifications. We upload recipes every week, and you don't want to miss out.